Hey!
Hi everybody, welcome to Horrible Time.
With Pebble Dash.
That's me. And Dan.
That's me.
Oh, I sound like such a man.
You are a man.
How very do you? Oh my god, it's our first one. So, what's our podcast about?
So our podcast is basically about horror in every word of the sense. Mm-hmm. So we will talk about horror films, games, novels, anything horror related, but with a queer slant.
You can talk about novels because I can't read.
To be fair, it's been a long time since I've read a book as well, so...
Bet you wrote a book.
True.
Anthony's an author. Are you a published author?
I've only had poetry published.
Oh.
She's fancy.
What kind of poetry?
Very deep, dark poetry.
Would I like it?
Probably not.
So, who are you?
My name is Anthony, also known as Anth. And who are you?
I'm Pebble Dash. I'm a world famous drag queen if the world ends at Newcastle.
What do you love about horror?
That's such a great, vague question to start
with. It is. But...
I love in horror, so there's so many different things, but I love the adrenaline rush, like the fear. I love that sometimes watching horror movies, your mind starts going overactive and then you're terrified for days. Mm-hmm. I prefer the writing in horror movies because I feel like in movies, horror movies and games and books, it's more inventive. Every rom-com's like the same.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly dull. What about you? What do you love about horror?
I like horror for like an escape. I know that's weird to say, but I quite like horror because, like you said, it takes you out of reality.
So it takes you out, it's like an escape.
It's like an escape, and you can scream shit at the TV when they're doing the wrong thing, like going down the wrong corridor and things like that, and I just find it fun.
Or when they run up the stairs. Everybody knows do not run up the stairs.
Yeah.
Because then how are you going to get back down?
Exactly.
What's your, first horror memory?
My first horror memory, it's quite vivid actually. Sitting on a couch... watching Return of the Living Dead Part 2, so not even the first one. Mm-hmm. And my brother's nana was covering my eyes, going, don't watch. And her sons were sitting around in a circle, laughing because they were older than me. And I just remember pulling her hands away from my eyes and just being like, ah.
My first horror memory is Halloween. I must have been 8 or 9. It was on Halloween night, and there was me, my 2 little cousins, and my older cousin was babysitting us. So yeah, he played Halloween for us, and literally after the first 10 minutes, the moment the little boy was out the front with a knife, we were absolutely terrified and couldn't keep watching it. And it's one of those movies still terrifies me now watching it, and I've seen it so many times.
It is pretty scary, being introduced that way. It's pretty scary. Some dude just walk around with a knife with no motive or anything like that, just killing babysitters. It's pretty scary for a kid.
Exactly. I mean, if we made it that bloody far, it was just the kid killing somebody. I was, oh god, my cousins are going to murder me. What's your favourite horror movie?
Well, it's a tough question because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of horror films. But if I had to pick, it would be Suspiria by Dario Argento.
The original or the gorgeous remake?
The original.
Yeah, I would hope so. Mine's is Halloween. There's just something about it. It was so kind of original, and it still scares me to this day. I remember even when I worked in Flamingo Land, watching it by myself in our flats, leaving to go and meet everyone at the pub, and I don't know why, but I turned round and the gate was a black gate but it had a white square sign in the middle. And for some reason, that overactive imagination, Michael Myers was there to get me.
Well, I love Suspiria because it's horrific for one thing. That's what you want from a horror film. Love the use of colour. It's so vibrant. Like all those reds and pinks to symbolise everything. And it has one of the best death scenes ever in a horror film. You know the bit where she is like crashed through the roof? And she just hangs down and like the blood drips.
Yes.
And then it's a close-up of her getting like stabbed in the heart.
I mean, what more do you want?
Oh, it's so good. And the infamous razor wire scene.
Oh, I didn't like that many wires like that.
When she falls into the wires and gets shredded. Oh, it's good.
Honestly,
it's good.
It's like me coming home after a night out in drag, the wires through my bloody bra poking into my ribs, my corset wires poking through my stomach. I know how that bitch felt.
Oh, well, I can attest to that. I've seen it.
You're welcome. That's a real horror movie.
But how did you get further into horror?
One of the things that really got me into it was Goosebumps books.
Oh, I love Goosebumps.
And then he wrote more like tween young adult novels, point horror, and every one of those series was like a different story and there was different authors in it as well.
Yeah, I remember those.
Absolutely amazing. What about you?
Do you want to know an embarrassing story?
Always.
So I remember being like 12, 13 and I got Scream on VHS and I'd never seen it before. I convinced some of my school friends to come round to watch it after school. So we put it in the tape player and obviously like Drew Barrymore gets killed in the first 5 minutes. I was absolutely terrified that I switched it off and told them all to go home.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Did you pee the bed as well?
I couldn't sleep. I was absolutely terrified.
Oh no, I just mean did you pee the bed in general when you were a kid? I feel like you might have.
I don't think I did, but maybe I did.
Oh.
So I sent them home and I was absolutely terrified of horror films from that point. But then, I can't remember what film it was, but I watched it and I was terrified again. But then I watched the special features and it kind of took away my, like, being scared of horror films. Because I saw like how it was made and it was just like a guy in a mask or whatever, and from there I just absolutely loved horror films.
So I used to love horror movies, but the minute I started to feel scared I would fast forward 5 minutes and watch it fast forward so I could figure out where the scary thing was going to happen, and then I'd rewind and watch it so that I didn't get too scared. And every now and again I'll still do the same.
What are the kind of horror-orientated things do you really enjoy?
So I love spooky drag. Obviously my drag isn't very spooky. I'll perk out the spooky drag for like Vampus Tits in Newcastle, because obviously I won the first one. What about you? What other horror kind of stuff do you love? You're a huge Buffy nerd, which I find fascinating.
Yes, absolutely huge Buffy nerd. I mean, again, that's kind of one of the things that got me into horror. But Buffy's obviously so much more than just horror orientated. It's a bit more like it's got drama, comedy and things like that, and all the monsters are like metaphors for life and things like that.
The Buffy movie. What do we think?
High campery.
I love the Buffy
Christy
movie.
Swanson as Buffy is underrated in my
Did
opinion.
she die a junkie?
I don't think she's dead.
Oh, is she not dead?
No.
Oh, her career is after that movie.
Yeah.
So, what other kind of things are we going to be doing on the podcast? So, we're going to be doing deep dives into particular movies.
Yes.
So, movies that we both either love or probably one of us doesn't love as much.
Which is sometimes fun.
I will argue my point as though I'm correct, even when I'm not.
That's very true.
You obviously, and is too... What's the word that I'm looking for? He's too demure to say that I've studied film. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to cinematography and things like that. Whereas I'm just like, that was scary and it looked pretty. There was a camera and it was on.
So true. I'm like, oh god, that tracking shot was absolutely amazing. And then Pebble's just like, what?
We're also going to have interviews, as we mentioned, and we're going to be interviewing kind of drag performers from starting in the northeast and then going out further. Hopefully we'll interview other people who are as enthusiastic about horror as we both are.
Yes, so obviously we will be reviewing. We will be comparing. We will be talking to special guests. And we will also be incorporating drag in there as well.
And we'll also be looking at and telling you all about horror news. And just generally what we've watched or played or read that week. You can follow the podcast at A Horrible Time Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow your host Anthony at
Anthony Detro on Twitter and at Diamond Hardskin on Instagram. You can follow Pebble at
It's Pebble Dash on Instagram and Famous Cunt on Twitter. Recorded by Pebble and Anth, mixed and mastered by Pebble Dash. Artwork by Graphic Design.